IS460 and 560, and Professor Fahmi Jalani. Today we'll be covering chapter 11 on critical change project scheduling. So what does that actually mean? So theoretically, in a project, according to Goldart, there are constraints, and because of that, it will affect the output. So because there could be a hardware constraint, or maybe a human constraint, or organization constraint, or financial constraint. So that's affect the project of the output. Okay. Basically, in this chapter, we will try to take a look at how to identify it, exploit, subordinate, and evaluate, and also repeat the process. Okay, the constraint. So what causes it? Variation. There are certain special circumstances. Excuse me about that. For example, financially, okay, you are constrained with certain budget of the project, okay, or manpower, a certain skill, okay, like there's about 1,000 lines of code to write in Java, for example, and you have to write it within a week, where you need more than one person to write for 1,000 lines, and also to test, to debug, things like that. Okay. Also common cause inheritance in the system. It could be a legacy, okay, a project that hasn't been completed and or need to be improved from it. This is pretty much a legacy, and if it's not done correctly in the beginning, or there is no proper document, you cause a lot of issue. So as a manager, you need to differentiate, okay, the different type, and to be able to adjust, okay, when you see the different type of problem. Okay. Also here they mention about not to include special causes variation in risk simulation. Okay. So technically not to assume, okay, and lastly not to aggregate discrete project. Okay. So moving on to the next slide, we'll see a graph. This is basically a Gaussian distribution. So in most projects, there is a peak, and then it will gradually slide down. Okay. So this pretty much causes from overestimation in any project. Right? It could be manpower, cost, time. Okay. Also safety margin. Okay. There's some codes or regulation that you need to follow, and also right now with the economy, inflation, okay, you expect cuts, okay, or retrenchment. Right. So moving along, there are also some margin which we need to take a look. For example, not wasting time on this. They call it first is the student syndrome. Okay, where, for example, immediate deadlines. Okay, I know being a student, you have a lot of other things, other courses, other issues, other problems, party and things like that. and there is immediate deadlines, and sometimes you overlook. Students tend to forget the deadlines of certain submission or report, things like that. Okay. Padded estimate, sometimes you add too much time on it. Okay. Rather than doing it within 1 week, you add 2 weeks. Okay. So high demand. Okay. Of putting too much time on a certain thing rather than, you know, uh, will not benefit you, then concentrating on focusing on another part. Okay. Other things, failure to pass along positive variation. Okay. For example, when the project is completed on on the staff part, when it's about to move, uh, it wasn't done properly, and there wasn't any positive uh, remarks or report, or even proper report. Okay. Okay. And also to be a perfectionist, which is indirectly not a good thing, because uh, it's hard to be a perfectionist in any project. uh, Even from an engineering perspective, there are tolerance. Okay. uh, and as a project manager, you need to be able to have tolerance, and to be able to complete the project, and maybe come back to the project when to refine it. Okay. Right. Other things, multitasking, and not be able to do so many things at one time, and path merging. Okay. You staff do panic, or even project manager do panic when there are too many things merging at the same time. Next is solution, which is a formula. uh, this is basically for your info, just FYI. Here we have the omega summation is less than number of time, and multiple by omega. So we have this is technically a central limit theorem. Okay. um, Basically what they are telling you is to buffer a project, but limit to a 50%. Okay. For example, you need to do a project within 1 week, maybe you can put 1.5 week, not more than that. Okay. Which we will take a look at later on. Some changes, uh, due dates, milestone to be eliminated. Okay. uh, in this case, not eliminated means maybe with the buffer. Okay. Like they mentioned here, 50%. Okay. Right. And also no blame culture. Okay. When you can't complete the project, you don't blame somebody else, or from the beginning. Okay. uh, Even though, for example, you are A student in other subject, and you are not A student in one other subject, you cannot blame that uh, the instructor is not good or something else. Okay. So also we have to schedule the estimate time, last time. Okay. What the factor, okay, contention, okay, critical change, okay, are not critical path. Okay. Basically critical change is basically a line that uh, you have to do it in order to complete the project. As compared to critical path, is basically what the path need to do to complete project. So we will take a look at diagram later on. And also minimal disruption. Okay. In order to solve a project. Okay. Try not to have office politics in the project. Any disagreement, personal disagreement, things like that. So here we see a diagram on feeder buffer. This is basically which is used, for example, manufacturing, for example, where before it goes to Bob, in this case, there's a buffer to cushion it. For example, it could be time, manpower, or for example, manufacturing, when he has to do certain things, there's a buffer for it to, like a storage, for example. Okay, and here is the critical chain. Okay. So in a critical chain project, we have the drum. Okay, this is pretty much company policy. Usually a one man on department, could be the project manager, and like I mentioned earlier, the buffer is basically a safety margin between project, which is in place not to overload the other project. It could be the other guy, the other project hasn't been completed fully. Okay, so we can call it a drum buffer. So how to apply that? So you need to identify, okay, exploit the drum, okay, subordinate, okay, and so evaluate the capacity, right? So this is technically saying that if you have completed a project to be passed on to the other group, and you notice that they haven't completed their own, for example, in an assembly line car, okay, and for example, they finish fixing up the engine and they want to move it to assembling the body of the car. There is a buffer. For example, it will take time for them to put in the wiring and the cable and the tubes into the body. Okay, so there is a buffer, maybe to prevent it from congestion, stopping the line. Okay. Submarine project schedule, basically based on the parts that we mentioned earlier, the drums, critical change, what's the constraint, how to resolve, okay, and insert a drum buffer. Right. Lastly, critics. Okay. Okay, when there is, take note that no milestone is used. Okay, per chart. Right. You need to improve your portfolio level. Okay, basically the output as a project manager or a project anecdotal or support. Okay, and some incomplete solution, where you have previous project that is not incomplete. Okay, you need to find a solution for it before it escalate to a bigger problem. Okay, overestimating. Okay, in this case duration, or we mentioned about padding, right? Putting extra time rather than 1.5 week, 50%, you put 90%, 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Okay, and also change culture. Okay, the mindset of the staff or the group is not focused. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the class. If you have any question, please feel free to email me. Stay safe, and thank you very much.